Okay, I'm back. This will be video 13, and Yeshua had showed me the planet, crossing and up close view of what this object looks like. It's very real. The event is very well coming, and what will happen, when it crosses. So that was last video. Now he walked back to me, and we're standing under the cherry trees, and he opened up a huge similitude right in front of me. So it was like watching a big screen television, but it was huge, But there were two mountains, and they were like this. So it's like an L that way. And oh my gosh, they're out in full force. So the planes. Anyway, these mountains were very jaggedy and sharp, and not a lot of vegetation on them. And in between this, in this area, this is in the Middle East, or what was going on at the time was these, let's see, Muslims, Islamic, they were all fighting each other. And they were just, it would escalate. It would, first it was just a little bit of fighting. Then it was a lot of fighting, and it just grew more vicious, and they were fighting with swords, and I don't know. I mean, they wore like the turbans, and they had their robes, and the one thing about this is they were, their clothing, they were more individual, because later on I'll tell you why I'm explaining this. They didn't have, it didn't look like one or the other were winning. It was just they were in constant battle. Then I saw over, okay, it's this way. Anyway, the mountain range, like a L, upside down L, the way I was looking at it. Over to the right was a white stone building, and it looked very much like a church would, but it was smaller, and it was all white, and it had a double big wooden doors to it, and it was shut, and only a few people would enter, but nobody, it was a mystery, like, who is in there, and everything was hush hush, and it was just really weird. Well, oh, and then there was a river beside that building. So, river, building, the Islamics fighting each other, and then the the mountain range. And I saw some of these people that were fighting with each other. They went in between the area where the two mountains met. There would be people that would run out of there and kind of spreading this war. Anyway, so it just kept escalating, and there was just this really secretive type building, old, like an ancient building. It was kind of weird. Anyway, next thing, as it started escalating, there was this earthquake, and there were these people, the ones that were fighting, they were just running all over the place, and some of them only had one shoe on, or they would be running with their rugs, and they were really, it was unsettling, you know, they were just frightened and running around. Now, the next thing that happened was the group kind of got together in a weird sort of way. They weren't fighting as much. Then a lady, she had long blonde hair. She was very pretty. She was wearing baby blue, and she had a veil that came down, but it didn't cover her face. And a blue dress, like a gown that came all the way down to her feet. She was holding a baby, and it was swaddled up. And she came and stood, she came from out of the crowd and stood right in front of me. And I watched her. I was wondering, what is this? And all the people were gathering together, and a big group was forming. And then I looked in the back of the crowd, and I saw this guy. There was like a line that came down, and then blood started gushing out, and like his head, top of his head fell off. And then it happened all over in the crowd. And I looked at the lady, and she also had it. And blood was dripping down onto the child. Then, from out of that white building, there was just more and more people. Just, it was kind of, people were excited and anxious. Out of this building came this tall man, and he started talking to the people that were fighting. And by then there was this huge group, and they all changed into one color, black, and they were united. And the lady went and stood by the man, and the man spoke great things, and he got everyone together. And as he was talking, I saw from a different point of view where even people in America will find out about this. It's like a worldwide event in the Middle East. And even people from America will go over to see this man. And then from out of that river came out these frogs, and they were jumping around into the crowd. Then he continued to talk. He was like a shadowy, dark man. And it looked like in some places he had horns. Other places it looked like he just had one horn coming out of his head. And then Yeshua said, don't listen to him. Don't even look at him. Because when he talks, it's like people go into a trance. He's very charismatic. And people will go in droves to see him. And then he's going to say, he's me. The next thing I saw is like an imitation of what it's going to look like when the real Christ comes in the sky. And I'm sure this will be a worldwide event. And he just looks like this big image coming down in clouds. I didn't see, like, when Christ returns, like the host, the angels, and everything coming with him. I just saw him as himself coming down looking like Christ. And I said, oh, you're back. And he said, no, it's not me. Big plane. Anyway, there was a big red carpet, and he walked up to it, and there was this throne, and all around the throne were the various leaders of the world, and they were living lavishly, laughing and drinking, and they all worshipped the Baphomet. Because I looked into the lilac bush, and in the lilac bush was the Baphomet, and they all worship that. So know that our leaders, if they say they're Christian, and I don't know about Trump, I honestly don't know what to think about him. But it might be kind of like a Cyrus. And he could be the one who gets martyred in the 7 churches in the book of Revelation. But the cut to the head means that is the fatal wound to the beast head system. So you'll see it happening in the Middle East. So you want to watch it very closely. And it will happen around the time of the crossing. Probably afterward, because the Antichrist, who is Satan, disguised as Christ, he comes in fixing the world's problems with peace and prosperity, and everything will be fixed, and he'll have these miracles, and people will believe that's Christ, and they won't know the difference. Now, the whore that sits on the beast system is the church, the Christian church. And that's why it's called a whore, because God takes that as adultery. So, be careful about, you know, what church you're going to if you do. And because your pastors, they might lead you right to the Antichrist, thinking he is Christ. They'll be fooled. So they're going to, you know, mistakenly fool you too. So it's going to be really weird. Supernatural events coming. Also, I saw portals opening up. I think I said this in another video. But before the Antichrist does get here, and we're talking about, you know, kind of at the end of the birth pangs, you're going to see these portals opening up, and they'll be random. And you got to be careful because you could actually walk into them and get lost. Now, there will be two main ones opened up over in the Middle East, and people are going to go into them like a entertainment thing, and it could be like part of the rapture theory doctrine. And I don't know why it would be set up unless it's the portal that is like the gates to hell or whatever are opened up. But in these rather large portals, it kind of looks like a Stargate. You walk in and there's like 9 doors and you can pick one. But I was told not to even think about it because you can get lost. And it's just weird. The fallen angels will be here also. I saw also the 2 witnesses. They came down from an arid mountain, and they were wearing like robes, and they had staffs, and they wore sandals, and they had beards. This could be Moses and Enoch, or Moses and Elijah, or any of those. So the 2 witnesses aren't anybody on earth right now. They will be part of the supernatural thing coming. But they will come first. Then I saw Satan tossed down, and it had a lightning bolt with it. And he hit the ground, and he was the dragon. I think I forgot to tell you about the dragon in paradise, so I'm going to have to make my next video about it. But the dragon is Satan, and he is tossed down to earth, and he starts looking around. So if you put all of this together, then it'll make more sense. And the book of Revelation talks about it. So I will be going over the book of Revelation in detail after I get these videos out, and then we'll be pretty much covered. So let's see. I think that's it. I'll be making the next video about the dragon in heaven and paradise of what I saw, and then we'll go to the next. Okay. Talk to you soon.